My name is Robert Ansell. I was married to Gabrielle Roth for 35 and a half years. I was a criminal defense lawyer, and I gave that up after about 15 years and became a percussionist and music producer. And mostly what that centered on was Gabrielle. I ran the movement business, and I also started the label Raven Recording, which made music for people in Gabrielle's world to dance to. We met in Malibu at the groundbreaking of a friend's home on April 17th, 1977. A couple days before that, Gabrielle had told these people that she was finished with men. And so the friend said, no, put out, you got to put out what you want to the world. So she said, okay, he's got to be tall. He's got to be a lawyer. He's got to be Jewish. I don't know where that came from. She wasn't. He's got to have his own children. She called me the next morning. We had lunch and we're together ever since that lunch. I am tall. I was a lawyer. I'm Jewish. And I have my own children. We were blessed to have found each other. We were totally opposite, came from totally opposite worlds, moved in total opposite worlds, but we were a couple. We were really a couple. I think it's a case of opposites don't matter. She shops, I don't. Her ego is in the past, mine is in the future. When she has an idea, she immediately gets other people involved to create and take this idea somewhere. I get an idea, I take it over in the corner by myself until I'm finished with it before I present it to anybody. If an idea or a thought comes up, she goes and takes it to its largest, most imaginative place. When an idea comes up to me, I try to grab it by its four corners and reduce it to a simple thing. I mean, there are many ways, little ways, but the point is we really were opposite, and it didn't matter. Our differences were our strength. And rather than to use them to separate us, we joined together to present a unified front to the world. So if my energy is very staccato, that's pretty good for running a business. Her energy was more flowing. And so she could move from idea to idea and concept to concept and program to program much more easily than I did. I'm pretty much grounded in the material plane of reality, and she was grounded in the inner or spiritual plane of reality. So whatever situation came up for us, we both had something to give to it. And it wasn't the same thing, which was a blessing. We were truly partners. And I had come out of a life where I was very prominent and got a lot of attention. And into my new life with Gabrielle, I really enjoyed not being prominent and not getting attention. But we were partners. I mean, we did this together. And I made a decision that when we moved forward in the world, we were marketing in her name, not in our names. So I did everything I did, I put in her name. I don't know what it looked like to the world. Maybe it looked like I was her lapdog or something, but that was not the case. I went overnight from who's the lady with Robert to who's the guy with Gabrielle. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. She started teaching in New York City. We drive in once a week for her to hold a class. She was still teaching at Esalen twice or three times a year. And so I opened an office and got a database program and started marketing it. There was no email, there was no web at that time, but mostly articles and magazines. She wrote 3 books. And then Raven Recording, we were making a unique kind of music. This is back in the early 80s. We were making 6 to 8 minute rhythm rides. No lyrics, no verses, no choruses. And it was the start of ambient music. We called our music Gabrielle Roth and the Mirrors. That was a marketing move. No one was going to buy music by Robert Ansell and the Mirrors, even though I was the moving force in making the music. But we got a lot of airplay, and so people kept hearing the name Gabrielle Roth, and it built. And of course, it's really due to her dynamism. She's irresistible, great seductress. She never seduced people into her. She just seduced people into themselves, into their more full, rich selves. And then she kept developing the work. It got tighter and tighter, and this whole intellectual background behind the 5 rhythms in the 3 books. So it was a whole combination of things, but basically her spirit, her funky, elegant spirit. A year after we met, my birthday, she gave me a little African hand drum. I'd never seen anything like this before. It fell in my lap like it had always been there. And I started drumming. This is about age 37. One of her great psychic gifts was she could see people's talents or abilities. She knew I was a drummer, although I didn't play the drums. The music we made was percussion based. We used music to dress up percussion. We didn't use percussion to drive music. And what would happen is we'd be in a workshop and I would be playing drums with one of my drumming partners. Over the last 25 years, it was a man named Sangha of the Valley. Gabrielle would give instructions. Okay, I went to the group. I want, you got 150 people. I want you to move in a flowing manner, blah, blah, blah. And I would hear that and I would start a drum bottom. And then Sangha would join me. And we would play for that exercise. And Gabrielle never told us what to do. She was instructing the crowd and we were paying attention to the crowd. So if we did if I had a good bottom going and we had a good rhythm going that created energy in the room, I would remember it and go in a recording studio and put that bottom down because I knew it danced. Gabrielle ended up at Esalen because she hurt her knee in a skiing accident and was told she would never dance again. Esalen had a great drumming tradition. One night, those drums took her to ecstasy, and the knee was not a problem as long as she wasn't doing someone else's steps. As long as she was doing her own steps, her own dance, her knee was fine. She realized she could dance, and it really opened up how she could teach. That changed her life. As she used to say, if you're not doing your dance, who will? Gabrielle did not have movement teachers. Her teacher was her body and her spirit. A very important thing in her life was the Eureka training, led by Oscar Chazo, a Chilean master. And she was in that for 3 years, and that really has informed a lot of her thinking about the human psyche. The 5 rhythms work is the use of rhythm to break down the psyche, explore the human condition through rhythm in the body. If you ask Gabrielle, she was not a dancer. She was not a teacher. She was a director. That's what she did. She directed energy, inspired energy and directed energy. Each of her workshops was a theatrical event. It started on a Friday night. Whatever she was doing, she was moving people around and creating exercises and just directing energy. And she loved that, and she loved to do it in a theatrical context. She loved that much more than her movement work. And her workshops were the ovens for baking experimental theater. She would divide the group into groups of 5 and say, okay, now I want you to do a theater piece on flowing rhythm. And next time might be, I want you to do a theater piece on childhood, whatever it was. And these things were like Tibetan sand paintings. If you were there, you saw it. And if you weren't, you'd never see it. her spirit does live on in her own work, which is really global, and in the underlying underpinnings of a lot of other people's work. Even though it doesn't look or smell like Gabrielle's work, it was her inspiration that got them moving in that direction. When Gabrielle passed, we gave the business over to her son, Jonathan. So I'm not really officially connected with the Five Rhythms global work anymore. I still have Raven recording. When Gabrielle passed away, I had to walk down the street and tell the bodega guys and the dry cleaner and the pharmacist, the florist, I mean, we're all friends, like these are your people in your community. So I told the real estate broker, you're going to find me a place within 2 blocks or I'm not moving. So he found me a block and a half. I went from 48 East to 42 West, 13th. And believe it or not, my apartment number is 4G.